Welcome, everybody. My name is Matthew Ashdown. I'm a Gene Keys guide and lover of this work, the Gene Keys, lover of myth, lover of many things in the world. So excited to be here this morning, today, whatever time you're watching this, to invite a very special guest today who will be taking us on quite the experience. We're going to experience some of her work firsthand, and this is a fellow Gene Keys guide and lover of myth as well, and lover of tarot and many other things, and Tamara Bucalo. And I hope I'm pronouncing Bucalo. I've never double checked that with you. Is that how we?
It's close enough. It's my ex-husband's last name. So
Okay, so we'll go by Tamara. Where's Tamara? Welcome, Tamara. So
thank you, Matthew.
yeah, so good to have you here. And I've seen we've connected within the community for a few years now. And Tamara's always such an encourager of so many other people in the community. And she just loves, I've just seen her highlighting the work of people that she loves. And I'm pretty sure this is related to some of the Gene Keys that you have in your own profile, Tamara. So we'll talk about that as we go through this. But really excited to have you here. And rather than me saying much more about you, I'd love to hear in your own words, what brought you into the world of Gene Keys and what's your passion for this work? And yeah, we'll start there.
Thank you, Matthew. And I just want to say it's such a pleasure and honor to be here with you today. I really appreciate this opportunity and how I came upon the Gene Keys. It was about 20 years ago during, at the time, I didn't know, but it was during the time of my Chiron return. And it was a very devastating time in my life, literally the tower experience of the tarot. And I've always been, I'm a 5/1, so I'm a heretical investigator, and I've always had a fascination with all things spiritual. So a friend of mine at the time, HD Human Design had just really taken a lead into the populace. And so she had a book about human design. And so she, hey, check this out. And I did. And I found it interesting. And there were some things I took and tucked away in my back pocket and, like pull it out maybe for future use, and never really did much with it. And then almost 4 years ago, I was in a little metaphysical study group, and they had presenters come in and talk about various subjects. And the presenter that day was talking about the Gene Keys. And the presenter was Ani Christie, who's also a guide in the Gene Keys community. And so she was up there talking about Gene Keys. And as soon as she put her hologenetic profile up on the PowerPoint screen, I almost jumped out of my seat. I was like, whoa. And while she continued her presentation, I was on my phone getting my hologenetic profile. And I immediately, something within me, and I don't know why, because the body graph and the hologenetic profile don't look anything alike, but something, I had an instant recognition that this had something to do with human design. And, I felt it within my body. So I am a sacral generator, so that's probably where I felt it. So it has been a constant journey since that moment. I've done all the courses. I've done the deep dives. I'm a Gene Keys guide. Yeah, so it's a passion. And I'm a retired florist. And so this is my vocation for the rest of my life. This is how I plan to spend the rest of my life, pursuing the Gene Keys, following this golden path, perhaps helping others along the way. So that's pretty much how I came to be here in this moment. And yeah, and currently being in the current Venus retreat, I've had the opportunity and honor to be a host. And I've realized that one of the greatest things that I can do is to witness others, to provide a safe and sacred space for others to be able to express themselves and to listen and support. My dad used to say God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we would listen twice as much as we speak. So Yeah, and a little background about the tarot. I've been reading tarot for over 50 years. I started when I was 15 years old, and I am from the South, if you can't tell from my accent. I'm from the United States, currently in Florida in the deep South, grew up in Georgia. And at that time, the tarot was like satanic. It was devil's
Right.
work. And I
Yeah.
had to, but I knew about the tarot, and I knew that I had a calling to it. And a friend of mine and I went, I was 15 and we went up to Atlanta with her parents, and we went to underground Atlanta where they had a head shop where they had black light posters and black lights and other paraphernalia. And they had a deck of tarot cards. So that's where I got my first deck, and it was the Rider Waite. And I've
Mm,
had a passion for the tarot ever since then. And so when when I began the Gene Keys, was introduced to Wisdom Keepers by Rosie Aronson. And I did Rosie's retreat, which was before the first Venus deep dive. She had a Wisdom Wheel of Integrity retreat. And I did that with her. And I asked Rosie, I said, Rosie, I read the tarot. I would love to use the Wisdom Keepers to combine with the tarot to give readings and sessions. And I asked her permission. She said that wasn't necessary, but yes, she gave me her full
mm.
hearted support on that. So even before I became a Gene Keys guide, I was doing this process of combining the Wisdom Keepers with the tarot. And I call it messages to you from you, because when we connect in this morphogenetic energy field that we share, I use the wisdom keepers representing your gene key that you hold in any sphere. And then with your permission, I overlay it with the tarot and receive messages
Mhm.
to you from you. So that's kind of like my process. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. And we're gonna have an experience of it. And there's a few different pieces there that I'd love to explore more in this time together. It's like, oh, hopefully we got enough time here. The flowers you mentioned, the flowers and their connections with the gene keys, I'd love to explore that a little bit with you. And then to have an experience of this process with the Wisdom Keeper. I love the Wisdom Keeper card. I don't have my deck here close at hand, but I will work with that in sessions with people too. And I could even almost feel as you're talking about the morphogenetic field, it's like, oh, there was a deeper blending just taking place in that moment. So, we'll explore that process with you. And if it's okay to begin with, one of the things I would say as well is that we are recording this and airing it during the pulse or the 6 day period where the 25th gene key is kind of influencing our collective. Now, I didn't know when booking with Tamara that we would be recording this, that this is her purpose sphere, this 25th gene key. And the 25th gene key moves from shadow of constriction to the gift of acceptance. And it's the city of universal love. And I can't think of a better gene key as really a foundation for the work of the gene keys, which, allow, accept, embrace, allow, accept, embrace, the mantra of the gene keys. And so I'd love to hear a little bit of your experience of that, but also if you're open to it, um, where you've been looking at these gene keys over time and the flower essences that you've connected with them, or not essences, rather the flowers themselves. And I love how you drew upon your wisdom as a florist and came into this space with it. So maybe perhaps your own experience and expression of this 25th gene key, and maybe illuminating what flowers you've associated with this, if you're open to it.
Thank you. Yes, I would love to. My mom opened her first flower shop when I was 7 years old. And at the time of life then, back in the 60s, I'm old. If your parents had a business, you worked.
Mm,
Whether it was sweeping the shop or whatever. So I've always been a creative person. I hold Gene Key 1 twice in my profile, and an extra time in my human design. And I paint and draw and do all hands. I've always been very creative. So my mom taught me how to tie a bow, and then she taught me how to make a flower arrangement. And even at the tender age of 7, 8 years old, I would tie bows and make little arrangements, and she would actually sell them. So I grew up in the industry, in the floral industry, and I've always been aware that I'm an energy worker, that I'm able to channel energy to heal, help, comfort, guide
Mm,
others. And so part of my process with floral arranging is that every flower has an emotional signature. Flowers are given for some emotional reason, always, whether it's love or celebration or sorrow or sympathy or birth, or it's there's always an emotional connection to flowers. So from a very early age, I was aware of this, and whenever I make an arrangement, I actually imbue it with healing energies or loving energies or whatever the reason for the floral arrangement is, what I kind of imbue in that arrangement. And not bragging, but I've had people come back to and say to me, that was the most beautiful arrangement I've ever received. And it wasn't just the design or the style or the flowers, it was that energy that they were receiving
mhm,
also. So
mm,
it has been part of my process and my energy work for forever. And then almost 4 years ago, I had an accident and injured my back and had to have back surgery. So I was no longer able to do it, to design flowers. And it's people say, oh, I would just love to play with the pretty flowers, but it's work. It's a lot of physical work. You're standing on
mm,
your feet, you're moving constantly, you're lifting buckets weighing 50 pounds. So
yeah.
I knew that I had to continue my connection with flowers. And so how it came to be is actually one of our Gene Keys ambassadors, Momo, and I were
Mhm,
talking one day. We had a little chat, and I told her, I said, I really wish that Richard would do something with flowers and trees and weeds like he does with the animal codex. And she knows about my background. She just looked at me, she goes, why don't you do that? And I'm like, why don't I? So it's only been a little, it was like a couple years ago. And honestly, I have not completed all 64 yet. It is a process, but I've done, I think, about over half of them.
mm.
I haven't done the 25th yet,
Oh,
which
wow. Okay.
I have
Interesting.
not, because I began in kind of a sequential order. So I haven't done the, like when they were in transit is when I do them. So at the starting point, I was at Gene Key 4. So,
Mm, that's
and
my
and
purpose. So
well,
we
it's
won't
the
go with your
hyacinth.
purpose. We can work with my purpose instead.
It's the hyacinth is the flower for that I and
Okay.
transmissions, they're based on how I do them. It's not necessarily the traditional connection between like a rose means love or this or that. I really
Mm,
contemplate about the gene key in transit. And then I do some research. I look up history and meanings, even traditional meanings of the flower or the tree or the weed. And I use weeds as a shadow because if
mm,
you think about it, every weed, most of them have a medicinal purpose,
mhm,
benefit other than just being an invasive species of plant. So to
mhm,
me, the weeds really signify that shadow frequency, that our shadows are there for a reason. So, and they have
mhm,
a purpose and they have a healing property to them that if we embrace them, then we can learn something about ourselves and heal ourselves. So,
mhm,
but yeah, so it's still a work in progress and I love it.
mhm,
And
mhm.
I've gotten a lot of response about it, and which I find very rewarding.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know a few people have mentioned it. It was one of the reasons I felt to ask you to do this interview is because there's definitely that interest. There's a lot of people, I work with people who have a deep interest in the world of Avalon and Avalonian myth and the healers of Avalon. And of course, there's a lot of herbology in that, and there's a lot of study of the flower essences and things like that. So I know it's of interest in this community. And as you were talking too, you mentioned the rose, and I remember being a 25-year-old, man going along to this I went along to this session, and it was about building my business and everything like that. And we were sat and we were doing a meditation. And in the meditation, they asked us to focus on something that could allow our power symbol to show up to us. And I'm like 25-year-old man. It's, probably my conscious mind would be like Excalibur or some, the spear of destiny or something like that. But the first image that popped into my mind was a rose.
Hmm.
And I was like, a rose? In my male 25-year-old male mind was like, a rose? Come on, like that's what. But over the years, it's like I have come into such deep reverence, and like even the sisterhood of the rose is a term that that comes up often in these circles. And so the rose of Venus, and here we are exploring the Venus sequence. And so I'm kind of, it's like on the tip of my tongue to ask, what's the rose? What's your dance with the rose been revealing?
Well, rose is definitely one of the most prolific flowers in the floral industry. I mean, you think of Valentine's Day and love and the red rose,
Hmm.
and I love roses. And the reason that I haven't chosen the rose for love for the 25th is because there's so many roses, there's so many colors and
Right.
varieties, and I love them all. Um, Out of all flowers, my favorite is the peony. And I chose the peony for the 38th, which is my core wound. So,
Right. There we go. That would make sense.
but yeah, the rose is definitely a symbol of love. The yellow rose has its own meaning. A white rose has its own meaning,
Yeah.
purity, love, so I've kind of avoided using roses because they are so expected. And in
Hmm.
some ways I wanted to dig a little deeper and contemplate a little deeper, into what flower really personifies or is an example for these frequencies to me.
Yeah.
And others may have their own. So it's not like, I'm not saying that what I do is
Yeah.
be all end all and it's the only one that can be, but
Yeah. Yeah.
the trees representing the gifts is something that really speaks to my heart because trees are ancient. I'm a big lover of myth like you are, and of course, Lord of the Rings and the
Yeah.
Ents.
Yeah.
So trees are
The Ents are my personal heroes.
right, right.
Slow down, folks. Slow down. Don't move so quickly.
And they move so slowly that you don't even see them moving, and yet they are moving. And yeah, I love trees. Trees.
Well, I'm named after Ashdown is a field of ash trees, so I resonate deeply with trees as
Oh,
well.
ash.
So
That's one of my favorite trees is the
yeah,
ash. It is. It's
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, and I love its connection with the three trees that are sort of portals to the fairy realms. There's the oak, the ash, and the hawthorn,
The,
and so
and the you.
yeah,
And
and
the
the you as
you.
well. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. The teacher that I followed, he speaks of those three in particular. But yes, the druids had love of many different trees as well. So
Absolutely. And with
yeah,
good reason. With
yeah.
good reason.
And I feel that's what you're bringing forward with this too. Is this um there is this ancient druidry, and I love, by the way, you know, I felt really inspired to bring that piece about the rose in there, and I felt like you offered a very helpful teaching there in that moment. The many colors of the roses, and these things that we can begin to just imbibe the beauty of life in that way, in different. Oh, what's the frequency I'm receiving here, and that point that you just made there too is so important, because myself and Jesse and Dia, we host a Gene Keys and Myth series, and we play with the different archetypes from tarot and the Gene Keys, but it's like we're not saying this is it, this is the one way, this is the truth. It's like, and we can get quite fixed on that. It's like, oh, they said it was this, and it's like, oh, no, 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 no. It's like this this is a guidepost here, just like any of this, and it's like to be able to play with it. It's something we can play with and experience. And I love that you took Momo's invitation there and that you jumped into this for the last 3 years because it's I do feel like, and that's the reflection, is that sometimes we can look at, like, I love the multidimensionality of the Gene Keys profile, but you can look at it and it's very 2D. It's on a piece of paper, right? And things like this, the animals bring it to life. And and the flower and the fauna and the trees, like, they're all around us. And to have that mirror and that reflection, I feel is so important, and to be able to connect us to these realms in other ways. So I feel that's why there's real value in what you're offering here and your contemplation of it. And I love the 25th hasn't even been one of those yet. It's like this, it's still yet to fully reveal itself to you. So, and I love that, the whole metaphor of flowers. You can't force a flower to grow, and it's going to blossom in its own time. It just needs the watering. So we're watering our purposes, we're watering our SQs, we're watering it all. Um, so yeah, I feel like there's so much we could explore in terms of this, and yet I feel like time-wise, I also want to move into this myth and exploring your process too, because I feel for people to get an experience of what you offer, it's so challenging sometimes to talk about what we do, what we offer, but to give an experience so people can to feel that. And so first, before we do that, or as we do that, I'd love to see, you've got a business card here, and I feel like this kind of sets the tone here for what we're about to dive into together. And I love it because of your associations with the tarot as well. So if you would you be able to put up your business card for all to see here? And so we're looking at a tarot card here, and this is the tarot of the High Priestess, right?
Correct.
And what was your reason for what guided you toward? Well, I know this answer from what we've talked about before, but I'd love for you to share with people what inspired the High Priestess for you as your business card.
Thank you. I would love to. First of all, I would like to give recognition to my grandson, Jasper Collado, who created this. We've been collaborating on doing a tarot deck of his original art. And and only the major arcana, because the major arcana are connected to the codon rings with the gene keys, which is very also something that's bubbling up within me. So I chose the 12. This is because of the 12th gene key. The High Priestess is associated with the codon ring and the 12th, and it's the only code. The 12th is the only one in that codon ring, and so there it's a little lighter now. So the High Priestess is a kind of a personification of me, in that I hold the 12th gene key in my evolution. I'm a 5-1 profile, so it's 12 line 5 that I hold in my evolution. And I found that, of course, your evolution is what you're here to learn. And the 12th gene key has been my greatest teacher and has been definitely a guide personally for me. So in choosing which one of these tarot card designs that my grandson's created, we're up to the Hierophant now. So we've done 6 of them. And they're all unique. They're all beautiful. And but the High Priestess was the one that really spoke the most to me because of the 12th gene key. And I call myself Flower Gypsy because of my association with flowers. I do have a website that has Flower Gypsy, and yeah.
Which
And
we'll be sure to put a link into for people. So
okay.
well, I can do that after the fact. I can put it on there for people to see. So
Okay, great.
yeah,
That would
yeah.
be amazing.
Yeah,
That would be awesome.
they'll already have access to this as they're watching it. It will be underneath, and they'll be able to see it. So yeah.
Great. And the website, I mean, it's basically just there to, it's pretty. And I I have this jinky one, and all things have to be beautiful for me. And so it's basically sharing what my process is, who I am, my
Mhm.
bio, where I come from and where I'm going to. So and what I do with the tarot and the wisdom keepers. But I would love people to check it out, and then can contact me via my email. So that would be
Yeah, and as
great.
we go into this, you'll get an experience of it. You'll see, oh, this is, I love that this is the codon ring of secrets, and we're about to show you the secret of who Tamara is. So, and I have the 12th gene key shows up in my culture sphere. So I have a love of this high priestess energy. So I am seeing Tamara as a vessel of this archetypal energy as we come into this space together. So maybe the rest of us, it's like, hey, we're all inviting this energy of the high priestess in, and Tamara is our holder of this archetype in this space. So I am feeling a sense of anticipation about what is to come as we explore this next piece together, as the high priestess works her magic. And I do trust in the white magic of this work, such that I'm coming in as a total beginner. I've studied gene keys for 10 years, but I'm coming in like completely open, because Tamara, with her ring of secrets, may deliver something that is just completely new to me and completely new to everybody watching. So um, let's open this up, Tamara. What do you need from me?
Well, um, we had talked about this and about doing your SQ, because we're currently in the Venus retreat. And what I do is there's several different sessions, readings that I do. I do a prime for, which is your activation. I do a Venus sequence. I do a pearl sequence. I do a line of individuation and a total profile. And recently I've even started doing a delta sequence for those who are familiar with the delta. They can, using those gene keys that are in the delta and just making them personal through the messages of the tarot. So since we're in the Venus, we had decided to do your SQ.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little amuse-bouche type thing to just give a little sample of what this experience is like. And your SQ is gene key 49.
That's the
And
one.
this is the Wisdom Keeper by Rosie Aronson that corresponds with your gene key. And she's so beautiful. I just love this gene key. And of course, it's a shadow of reaction, the gift of revolution, and the city of rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to read a little passage from the Wisdom Keepers. And also in human design, this 49th gene key is the revolution ringleader. And you're kind of that. You are the ringleader of this revolution and the work that you're doing. And, making these podcasts and the mythology, and that's so significant in this day of age. And the main thing about being this revolutionary is having your own principles and set in place. And you're a very principled person. So
Mm-hmm.
I value that in you. And I
Thank
would follow you into the revolution.
you. And just to be clear, it's a revolution of love, because I've done those other kinds of revolutions in past lives. They got messy and painful, and I'm working with a revolution of love this time.
Absolutely. So from the guidebook from Rosie, her message here is, I come to remind you that you always attract the relationships that teach you exactly what you need to know in order to grow. The more you trust that people are in your life for a reason, the more you'll be able to learn the relational lessons you need to learn. And the better your judgment will be when it's time to choose new partners, friends, and collaborators. I want you to trust your instincts. Start smelling the people in your life. Ask yourself, who are my true allies? You have the potential to experience more trust, harmony, and teamwork in groups than you can possibly imagine. When you found your true team, your destiny will naturally and magically unfold. And what you're doing with Jesse and Dia, in the mythology, this is your lane. I've listened to several of your broadcasts, your podcasts on Clubhouse, and I'm fascinated because I also have a love for mythology. So I just want to encourage you that I sense you're on the right path. And that being said, I'm going to now pull 2 tarot cards. I use the Mythic Tarot, which is by
And I
Julie.
just I
I'm
just love
sorry.
this because I was sorry to interrupt, but I was
Yeah.
just given a copy of this. I've never had this in my life, but I was given a copy just for Christmas this year.
Mhm.
So I now have a copy of this Mythic Tarot deck, and I love it. So I'm glad that that's what you're working with in this space.
It is I've used the Mythic Tarot for over 30 years. I have a first edition that I don't really use that deck much anymore because it's kind of worn and I don't want to damage it. But it's by Juliet Sharman Burke and Liz Green. And it's based on Greek mythology. And I love all mythology, Greek mythology, of course,
Mhm.
Celtic mythology, and even in Native American and all indigenous mythologies have very similar themes and
Yeah.
connections. So, and the other tarot I'm going to use today is the Psychic Tarot by John Holland.
All
And there's
right.
another one too. John Holland is a psychic medium, and I know I have followed his work, but I really love this deck. And one of the things that this deck has is chakra cards, which I then
Oh, yes.
connect
Yeah.
to the centers in HD. So it's
Thank
interesting. So if a chakra card comes up, you know that that's the connection. So what I need from you is just to relax. Just settle into your own breath. I need to ask your permission to read for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Matthew. And while I shuffle the cards, just relax into your breath and your presence here. Okay, I think we're ready. So your SQ is the 49. What line are you?
Line 5.
Line 5. Those line fives are very powerful. So the first card, well, and first of all, the SQ is your spiritual quotient for those who may not know. And this is kind of your story. It's your mythos, your mythology, the story that you came into the world with. And it's from the ages of 0 to 7, which are those tender years when we're so imprinted. I really believe that we are born knowing everything, that when we come in as this little tiny infant, that we know everything. Nothing is unknown. But during this process of learning to become a human being and being in a body and separate from all that is, the veil does drop and we forget because we're busy learning how to crawl and eat and walk and talk, and we are imprinted during this precious time by our surroundings, by our parents, our ancestors, our peers, our teachers. And so there's a lot of imprinting going on during that stage of our life. Um, so the first card that has a message for you is the Three of Cups.
Mm-hmm.
So the Three of Cups denotes not only celebration, because the three is about celebration, but it also denotes like collaboration, that there's many people surrounding you and that you work very well within these groups, especially in your SQ, because that line 5, you have the power to attract others to you, and your voice and what you're doing, and your ability to share this wisdom and knowledge that is within you in your SQ. It denotes that people are attracted to you and will come to you for answers. And that's part of this revolutionary ringleader that you have chosen to step into this role in this lifetime. You are here to make a difference in the world. You are here to change the world. You came and were born in this age to be part of this great change that's coming in humanity. You have a very specific role, and people are going to come to you and ask for your input. You will have a large following, people wanting answers. If you notice, the Grail is also here, the Holy Grail. And people will offer you this Grail energy because they want you to fill their cups. That's why they're bringing their cups to you, because you have answers, and many of them have been revealed to you, and there's many more to come. You're still young, and you're still in that cycle, that 7-year cycle before your Chiron return, which when it comes will be very significant and impactful. And I don't think it'll be all bad. Like, people often fear their Chiron return because it is revolution. It's a great change, in our foundation. So I see you as playing a very significant role in these coming years as we approach the great change. And what you're doing right now, you are feeding, you're giving life to many people that, who are holding their cups and asking you to fill it up for them with this. The work that you're doing now is the work you were born to do. The second card that you have, daydreams and decisions. Interestingly enough, this is a cup. So cups are the element of water. And here we're in the Venus, and this is your SQ. And this is equivalent to the 7 of Cups in the traditional tarot. And the 7 of Cups is all about making the right choices, making the right decisions. And as you see here, it says decisions, daydreams, decisions. So there's a lot that I sense that there's a lot of things on your plate. There's a lot of plates spinning in your head of things that you want to do. And in some way, and they're all good. It's not that anything is wrong with any of them. But in order to do them to the fullest capacity of the power of this 5 that they embody, decisions have to be made. So choose wisely is the message here. That as you pursue through this next 7 years, or this next stage of your life, choose wisely, because the choices you make are going to have a great impact on others, and are going to prepare you and others for this great change that's coming. And I'm getting that tingly, goosebumpy feel. So I really connect this message to you in regard to what's ahead and what's coming and what you're being prepared for as a revolutionary, because you are here to change the world. And yeah, and with that, I believe that's the gist, the most powerful points of this message for you today. Choose wisely, follow in the same pathway that you're in. I hear the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the 49, there is that, there is that really aligning with that deeper vision. I've had my time of, visions that were just for my own life and what I wanted to create, but it felt like this 49 just wants to birth more and it's about the allies and the teams and the people. It's no one person, and and something that I love about this 49th gift is about seeing the gifts of everybody else coming alive. It's like to live in a time where we are currently transiting and moving from a time where people are doing, for instance, work that they have to do, right? That they should do, that they need, and to I just light up when I see people doing what they love to do. Because I feel like when we're all aligned in that way and doing what we love to do, like you doing what you love to do, your grandson doing his artwork and doing this collaborative project with you, and you're doing what you love to do, it's like that to me is a revolution of love right there. And so it's, yeah, I totally, that resonating and that, even that I could feel there's that little knot in the stomach because there's still that part that that feels I could make the wrong choice, the wrong decision, right? And that having a second gene key as my life's work, it's the gift is orientation, right? But the shadow is that, oh, afraid of, and not just that me individually, but us collectively. That there's because I'm a lot two line five there. It's like, so I totally resonate with everything you're sharing there, and also can feel the squeeze a little bit as it's like that line five that it's holding this gently, holding it gently, and just remembering, there's a sentence in the line 5 SQ that really stands out to me, which is that this is about, love really prevailing over fear. And as I've journeyed through this SQ sequence, just this last little week, there's been these unconscious things that it's like my body just releasing these things, these fears from the unconscious, and just bringing that presence to them. And I'm experiencing these like, oh, and then as you shared the picture of the 3 cups, and I couldn't help but notice the mermaids there too, and just like the deep waters of the feminine. And the 3 cups, it reminds me of when Richard in the Seven Sacred Seals is talking about um, the Holy Grail container. And he speaks about the 2 women and 1 man and that Holy Grail container there. I've never really heard him expand upon that, but it's always been interesting finding myself in these little containers, like connecting with other guides, and it's the Trinity. Richard's always talking about that Trinity and the foundation of the Trinity. And when it comes to the work I'm doing with Jesse and Dia, with the Gene Keys and Myth, is there is um, this passion, as it were, for the rebirth of myth in a way, because myth is something we see as like not true, it's false, it's fake, and instead we get facts, and facts become rigid, and facts become, I mean, we're seeing the war of facts going on in the world at this time, and that myth adds this other dimension. And what I really find fascinating is that myself, Jesse, and Dia all have the 49th gene key. I think Jesse is his life's work. Dia, it's her evolution, and me, it's my SQ and radiance. So it's like the 49 is very alive in that space and in that dynamic. And what I love about what you're working with too, with these archetypes, is that, sometimes you can read a gene key and it can seem obscure, right? Sometimes it can seem obscure. And then to bring it like the high priestess is the 12th gene key, this ring of secrets, and what secrets is she revealing, and the transformational process within that, it brings it to life. So I love this exploration of the tarot, and that you're working with the mythic tarot. And yeah, I can mirror back to you what the cards are saying for me, which is that you feel very aligned, and that you're serving in the way that brings you deep love and enjoyment and fulfillment, and I think is really valuable. And so this is what people can experience with you, because although Tamara is using the cards, you can tell she's going into her own divinatory process in this. She's becoming the high priestess in this role, and so it's that you can feel the words, you can feel the resonance there. So if people want to come and reach you for a session like this, we'll send them to your website link and they can come and track you down there. You're not hard to miss in the Gene Keys community either, because you're always encouraging other people to live their gifts in the world, which is an aspect of the 12th Gene Key, is it not? It's like, oh, wow, I really appreciate this authentic expression of self in the world. And here you go. Like, look at what she's doing. Look at that's Tamara. She's like the greatest cheerleader in the community in that way. So Tamara, you'll find her easily through her website, but also easily in the Gene Keys community. And I thank you for that experience. I thank you for really bringing that to the floor. I do love the wisdom keepers, and like you said, the eyes there. For me, every one of those cards, the power in the eyes is so different, and so I highly recommend that to anyone. Now, to bring this to a close gradually here, one of the things is another place you'll find Tamara is at the Into the Mystic event, which is going to be taking place May 2023. So if you're watching this later than that, you've missed it. You've missed it. But if you're watching it beforehand, there's still a chance to join and meet up. And that's going to be in Colorado on May the 14th. And you're going to be there. And, another thing, just before we do come to a close, you have this creativity about you and these different expressions. And I'm just wondering through all of this, like if there's any Gene Key inspired art or anything that you have at hand that you want. I mean, I see something in the background there that looks kind of Gene Keys inspired.
Yeah, that's actually the seven sacred seals that Hugh Mann did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I do when I can no longer physically do floral arranging, having this creative drive within me, I have to be creative. I would die if I wasn't creative. So during my recuperation from back surgery, I picked up painting, and I paint on glass like it's faux stained glass. And I have a couple things I can show you today.
I just love that. I love that. And I think anybody in the Gene Keys community, when they see a dragonfly like that, they just, this is our transformation. This is the light of your transformation coming through. And all the colors too.
And another one that I did is being a guide. I did one of like the guide symbol.
Oh, wow. Yes. Yeah. The big heart and the moon.
One other that I'll share with you today. It also has not only the dragonfly and the guide symbol, but also the hologenetic profile.
Yeah, I think that's a masterpiece personally. I really love that. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that that's going to be something you're going to be hand delivering to Sir Richard Rudd himself.
I do. It won't be this one. I'm doing. I contemplated it, and I'm creating a special one just for him, because when I create it, I really want to, just like I do with flowers. When I make an arrangement, I really want to imbue my gratitude, appreciation, and love for Richard, because I do love Richard. And it's in closing, I would like to reference the 25 again. And the other day, when the 25 came into transit, I opened the 7 sacred seals and did an invocation of the 3rd seal, which is the 25. And I've often struggled with the 22 and that suffering is grace. I mean, on one hand, I understand the concept of the contrast, that were it not for suffering, we wouldn't wholly appreciate and embrace grace. But and I've done the invocation before, but this time the love and being in the 25th, that love ends suffering.
Yeah.
So no matter what the question, love is always the answer, always. So I'm so grateful for this time with you today, Matthew. I adore you. I've followed you and watched you for years now. And I'm just so grateful to be here with you today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so grateful you said yes. And also, thank you for answering my question before I even asked it, which was I was going to ask, is there anything you'd leave people with as they're contemplating their gene keys? And I think love is the answer. Sounds like a perfect emanation from somebody who holds the 25th gene key as their purpose sphere. So thank you for answering that. See, she's psychic, folks. I didn't even need to. I didn't need to ask the question. She already knew. So yeah, if by some miracle I'm going to England I'm going to the UK in June. So I booked my tickets the same day, the flights to England the same day they announced this. So if Into the Mystic is possible, I would love to be there because I would love to meet all these other amazing guides and Gene Key journeyers. And but if not, I'll definitely be watching it online. And for those of you who are wanting to seek out Tamara, you can do so there at the Into the Mystic event, or you can do that ahead of time by going to her website, which is linked below. And you can track her down within the Gene Keys community on the website, I imagine, the forums and the website. So thank you, Tamara. Thank you for sharing your flower wisdom. I really feel there's something beautiful emerging there that I think many people are just kind of being curious about. And so you've led the way there. And this exploration with myth. And I love that you're working with the Mythic Tarot card, something that I wasn't, I've worked with many types of tarot over the years, but this is one that I think because maybe I hadn't always been interested in the Greek mythology. And so it popped up just a few months ago, and here we are. You've just given me a deep dive into it, so I can explore that very card in the Three of Cups in a little bit more detail. So a big thank you to you, and I absolutely encourage folks to check out Tamara and her work, and to book sessions with her online, or I imagine in person as well, if you live close by to you in Florida, in the deep South. But the beauty of the modern age is that anyone can connect to you anytime, anywhere. So everybody watching, I hope you found as much inspiration as this as I did. And just remember that we have awakened the High Priestess archetype. So Tamara just might have blessed your life with a little bit more magic today. So I want to thank you, Tamara. I want to thank everybody who's been watching and joining in. And I look forward to seeing you all in future interviews like this, which I'm going to be doing more of, because I love having these kinds of conversations with other people in the Gene Keys community. And I've done them sporadically, but I'm feeling a burst of commitment coming through. Maybe that's part of my decision making that I've got to do. And so thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful week. Have a beautiful experience of this 25th Gene Key Pulse, and we'll see you around. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Tamara.